Thank you so much for coming today. If you're standing and talking, sit down, have a seat. My name is Adrienne Esposito. I'm the Executive Director at Citizens Campaign for the Environment. For those of you who don't know, CCE is a bi-state environmental organization with 80,000 members throughout New York and Connecticut, 5 offices, and we work on a wide variety of environmental and public health protection issues. We're delighted that you are here today for our workshop on what we feel is one of the most compelling issues for Long Island, but also the sustainability of Long Island. And many of the issues today is connected around water and wastewater treatment and sewer infrastructure. So whether it's a new smart growth development, whether it's keeping youth on Long Island, all of that, hello Boris, all of that also means that we have to have an island that is clean, is healthy, is sustainable, and is a place that we want to live and will be able to live for the next 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 years. Think big or go home. So I have behind me a bunch of very informed and talented individuals that have been working on water infrastructure issues, treatment of wastewater, which means treatment of sewage. I always get to talk about the nicest issues like sewage, toxics, some kind of pollution, most recently dead whales. If there's any kind of upbeat, happy thing, you come to our office, we're discussing it. But wastewater treatment and sewage has become a critically important issue for us to deal with and address here on Long Island. Fortuitously, we know how to treat wastewater. We're not doing it, but we know how. And we need to take that know-how and put it into action. So here, I'm going to move along quickly. We have 5 talented people here. We want to talk to you from different perspectives, different walks of life, and also some are government, some are business, some are independent. And I think it's always good to get a variety of vantage points so you can get a good, well-rounded discussion going. So each person is going to take, how many minutes are you going to take? 10 minutes, and then we'll go into the questions and answers. All right? We're going to start with the one and only Peter Scully, who is referred to many times as the Water Czar of Suffolk County, but his official title is the Deputy County Executive in Suffolk County, and prior to that he was the Regional Director for the New York State DEC here on Long Island.
Thank you, Adrienne, and welcome everybody. Thanks for being with us. I prepared a PowerPoint. I'll try and move through it quickly. I see there are folks who I have not had the pleasure of dealing with on this before. Some of you may have seen this information. I apologize if it's redundant. Suffolk County Executive Steve Dorn was elected in 2011, and in 2014 embraced the long-standing challenge of dealing with wastewater in Suffolk County, which is, unlike Nassau, 74% unsewered. It's a concern in Suffolk County because we're a relatively large population living in a very small area, sitting on top of sole source aquifer that supplies all of our drinking water, and we're surrounded by water. In fact, many people came to Suffolk County to enjoy the water resources, and everybody seems to get now that there is a problem around and we see that beaches are closed, they can't swim at the beaches, not allowed to eat the shellfish. We get warnings from the State Health Department about how many servings of finfish we can eat in a month. And we're seeing increasing incidents of what we call algal blooms in the water, brown tide, red tide, and other, and all sorts of toxins that are popping up, cyanobacteria, ponds in the East End where birds come in contact with these blue-green algae. They can be harmed or even killed. This is an attention-grabbing photo slide that we use. This was a fish kill that occurred in 2015 out in Peconics and Riverhead. Now, folks will tell you that in some instances, fish kills are a natural occurrence with predator fish chasing smaller fish into areas where the water is relatively shallow and all the oxygen is consumed, and they can die. In this instance, however, the state DEC and Suffolk County Health Department made a report which concluded that this particular fish kill was due in part to an increase in nitrogen surface water in the Peconics. The Peconic estuary is one of, I think, 24 estuaries of national significance declared by the Congress, and we're working hard to protect it. So the fact that we have these types of problems is a concern. The pie chart in the middle is drawn, however, from a study of the Great South Bay, which is also an impaired waterway, which found that 69% of the nitrogen, which is now the primary contaminant concern that we're dealing with, comes from septic and cesspool systems that serve individual properties, and most of Suffolk County is unsewered. The county executive had the county apply to take part in a program offered by the IBM Corporation, the Smarter Cities Challenge Program, under which IBM sends a team of experts into a municipality and helps assess a problem if the municipality is selected. Suffolk County was selected, and IBM sent a team of experts here. They spent 6 weeks assessing the problem, dealing with stakeholders on various levels of government and in the NGO and business community, concluded that in order to fix the problem, which they said it's not a question of whether you fix the problem, you can't afford not to because your current situation is not sustainable. Your economy and your environment will both suffer, and ultimately property values will plummet. They put the price tag at $8 billion. And so, very fond of telling people it's nice when we hear about a grant of $1 million, nicer when we hear about a grant of $5 million or $10 million. But $8 billion is not, 80 million or 800 million. It's $8,000 million. That's a lot of funding and research. Suffolk County also issued a comprehensive water resources management plan in 2015, which was generated with the support of other government agencies and a financial contribution from Suffolk County Water Authority. It's a historic document. I characterize it as a good news, bad news document. Bad news is it documented continued degradation of water quality in Suffolk County over time, particularly nitrogen being of primary concern. These other issues on the right-hand side were all dealt with in the context of the plan. Bad news is the degradation of water quality. The good news is that the plan offers some concrete recommendations to move forward to address the problem. Key IBM and comp plan recommendations: develop funding mechanisms. Federal government is no longer in the game of providing subsidy for connection of parcels to sewage treatment, and much of Suffolk County, while unsewered, will never be connected to a sewage treatment plant. Instead, we're looking at individual systems that will replace septic and cesspools that actually treat waste. So we can't do that work unless there's a way to pay for it without burdening the individual property owner with the cost of those improvements. A new IA system, for example, would cost the homeowner an average of $16,000 right now. We're hoping that that cost goes down. And the cost of connecting to sewer, an example, say Sayville, which I need to see sewer, if we implemented a project there, the resultant impact on individual property owner would be $4,000 a year, debt service and operations and maintenance, and no elected official is going to vote in favor of that type of burden on the property taxpayer. So we're involved right now in setting the stage for an evolution away from the use of these systems that don't work to ones that do. It's a multifaceted effort. I'll run through this slide really quickly. On the left side, we're working on these new innovative on-site systems. We are taking a careful approach. There are a lot of systems out there where people are advertising will treat down to levels of total nitrogen, which is very, very desirable. But rather than simply certify them for use here, County Health Department, County Executive want to see these systems work on Long Island and prove that they're effective. The worst thing we could do is certify systems for use here and find out later that they don't actually function the way they're supposed to. There would be no public confidence in a program like that. So the staff went out to the manufacturers and said, we have a potentially huge market. We have 360,000 homes in Suffolk County. Would you be willing to donate systems and prove that they work the way that they do? We had the first phase of the pilot project, a lottery, where we got people who were willing to host those systems. We have 19 of them in the ground. We have a second phase underway. We had waiting for 6 months of steady operating data from these systems showing that they function before we certified them for use. We have certified 2 systems for use in Suffolk County. At this point, others will follow shortly thereafter. So we're dealing with the technology piece on the far left side. Preparing the industry. So these systems are a lot different than cesspools and septics in that they're active systems. They have mechanics associated with them. It's no longer a system where you just show up with a backhoe, dig a hole, throw a ring in the ground, and pipe it to the house. These things have works. And we need to make sure that when we get people converting to this type of system, there are people who are certified and qualified to install them and certified and qualified to maintain them. And so what we have done over the past few years is consult with the wastewater industry on Long Island and say, change is coming. But there's great economic opportunity associated with this. We need to make sure there's an industry stood up and ready to serve these people. We have a licensing law that took effect in June, and we instantly began offering training to folks who are getting the industry stood up. Under the state health code, we're not allowed to authorize the use of these new systems in Suffolk County unless we establish a responsible management entity. Earlier this year, the Suffolk County Legislature enacted Article 19 of the Suffolk County Health Code, providing responsible management entity, which will be the Office of Wastewater Management in our health department, which will regulate installations and maintenance. We're working on code amendments now to update the sanitary code provisions that have been in place since the 70s and 80s, and quite frankly are a little bit permissive. We got that underway, and on the far right-hand side, we are working with folks through the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan, which we'll be talking about a little bit later, to delineate the areas, sub-watershed areas, where the installation of these new systems will have most benefit from a cost standpoint. And we have some policy decisions to make, whether to ban the use of cesspools, I think that's going to be a priority in 2017. Whether we should phase them out, what does that mean? Well, if yours fails, you can't put another one just like it back in, you got to go with the new IA system. Whether or not we ultimately will require people whose systems have not failed to replace them with one of these new active systems. We will only do that if we can make it affordable, and providing a funding source and a mechanism. So theoretically, if somebody's going to replace one of these systems, we can provide them with a grant, a portion of the cost. The remainder, that's their responsibility. Perhaps we can finance over time at a low interest rate to make it a more affordable prospect for them. So we have a kind of a three-legged stool approach to dealing with wastewater for areas that are not yet sewered in Suffolk County. Some areas can be connected to sewers. That's the leg on the far right. We'll be using these new innovative systems. I'll run through a couple of slides on the far left. And there's an opportunity to have what we call a neighborhood cluster system, something that's not a full-size sewage treatment plant, but which is large enough to serve an individual community. We're looking for an opportunity now to put one in place at a mobile home park. We received a $1 million grant from the DEC to do that, to see if we can find one of those situations. Mobile home park is a highly concentrated area with a lot of individual systems. We found one near the Peconic River. We'd like to install a cluster system there and make it part of our suite, of our toolbox. So this is an interesting slide. I was at DEC in the wake of Sandy. It was one of the most exciting periods of my career. There was so much going on. And somebody from Albany called me and said, you know, Peter, I think there's $1.5 billion or $1.6 billion out there in federal coastal resiliency money. We might be able to make the argument that because we don't have sewers, there's nitrogen pollution in the water, and the nitrogen pollution is degrading the wetlands. Because the wetlands protect us from storm surge, not having sewers is a huge problem down here. It's got resiliency implications. Do you think Suffolk County and Nassau County, I was the regional director, would have projects that are essentially ready to go? For Nassau County, we went and saw them. It was relatively simple. They had very large regional facilities, one of which Bay Park was significantly damaged. They were really looking to get that repaired, stood up, and possibly get an ocean outfall. Pretty simple approach in terms of coastal resiliency for Nassau. In Suffolk, it was a little bit different. Suffolk is a very diverse county from west to east. It's fully developed on the west end, not unlike Nassau, but further east yet. The less developed it is, these sewers are not a big priority for the east end. But we went to see Suffolk County, County Executive Malone and Sarah Lansdale just rolled out a map. They had some projects to offer, and we have 4 projects that are part of that. Real quickly, the only reason these projects are happening, the 4 projects that will serve the Fort River and Mastic, a portion of Village of Patchogue, 2 additions to sewer district number 3 Southwest, one in Connecticut, in the town of Great River, which is right on the Connecticut River, where people's cesspools are sitting in groundwater and they need to have them pumped 4 times a year. Can't do laundry and shower at the same time, that type of thing. And finally, one up in Cross River. The only reason these projects are possible is because of this $380 million in state aid. Because in the absence of some sort of subsidy, the cost of providing sewer connection to people is a burden that the individual property owner, politically, the elected officials won't put on them. $3,000 or $4,000 a year won't work. Subsidy makes it possible. Here's a suite of projects that are currently under consideration in our county. It's $2.2 billion worth of sewer infrastructure, most of which will never move forward if we don't find a funding source to make them happen. I'll pull an example of the sheet and keep moving real quickly. Kings Park, Main Street should be a relatively simple project for us. Reason being, we have a nearby facility that we operate, sewer district number 6. It has available capacity. It's operating in full compliance. We can simply connect that downtown to Kings Park, the downtown Kings Park business district, which is like 100 parcels, to that facility, and away we go. Relatively small project, $18 million. But the way it works is that once you borrow the money to do the work, the benefited parcels within the area we serve each pay a share of the debt. And in the absence of subsidy, the cost to an average property owner in that district would be $5,000 or $6,000 a year. That's a problem. We need to find a way to break that that obstacle. Here's a couple of examples of the individual systems we have in the ground as part of our demo program. They're interesting. Some folks have come with us. We've done a lot of tours showing people how they operate, trying to raise public awareness. The interesting thing about these systems, one on the top is a German technology called BUSA, which looks really good. It hasn't performed very well yet in Suffolk County. The others are in the ground, and if you have ever been around and somebody takes the cover off the cesspool, the odors are significant. The amazing thing about these IA systems is that there's no odors associated with those. Tax program, I keep moving. We've designated some priority areas for upgrade where it's likely that we would recommend to the policy owners, policy makers that we require upgrades to these IA systems. I'll keep moving quickly, we're using up time. So we talked a little bit about the need for funding in both our Comprehensive Water Resources Management Plan and the IBM report. Recommended a couple of options for our consideration. There's no easy one, and everybody will find a reason to object to a real estate transfer tax, or in addition to your property tax bill for sewers. The other thing that they asked us to take a look at was the idea of a surcharge on top of our water rates. And the more we looked at it, the more we said, you know what, that might make sense in this county. Although the county executive was adamant that rather than simply suggesting that a surcharge on water be implemented, he'd asked the voters of the county to vote on it. Here's the reason why we thought it might make sense. This is a water supply rate comparison. You can see that the Suffolk County Water Authority on the far left is currently charging $1.81 per 1,000 gallons of water. It's a very, very low rate. If you jump over the bar with the green on top, you'll see that Nassau County's largest supplier has a rate that is $4.45. New York City's is higher. The national average, even higher, and Westchester is the highest at $5.50. You can see by the second bar from the left that if we added $1 per 1,000 gallons to the Suffolk County Water Authority rate, it would still be 60% lower. 60% lower than the rate charged by Nassau County's largest supplier in the summer season, 80% lower than the New York City rate. We said, you know what, there's some room there. That's something we should talk about. Unfortunately, what happened last year is that there was some discussion and it fell more into a partisan political discussion, I think, than a substantive one. But we continue to believe that that's an option that people should be looking at. We continue to talk to stakeholders about it. At $1 per 1,000 gallons, based on the consumption in the county from 2014, staff estimates that it would yield about $75 million a year, which would not solve our problem, but would get us moving in a big way. And staff estimates the impact on an average residential property at around $100 a year. Although the important thing about a usage surcharge is that the more water you use, the more you would pay. There's an incentive to be a little bit more mindful about your water use. And people, people who use a lot of water, Koch brothers at their estate in the Hamptons, who used 21 million gallons in 2014, would pay more. This is a chart that shows how the Peter Scully proposed water quality protection district would work and how the money would fall down into tranches. I'm not going to go through it because it's a 15-minute slide, and I've already used up a lot of time.
Yes,
but
actually, can you wind up, Peter?
I'm going to do that. And so we have a lot underway. We are very anxious to continue the discussion, and I'd be happy to talk to folks after the session about details of the work we're doing. A lot of support for our proposal to create this district and this state. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I bet you guys didn't know that Peter won the speed talking contest. He's multi-talented. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we know what Suffolk is doing, and I think we should hear a little bit about what Nassau County is doing. I want to say that, one of the problems and the challenges we face is that we, as a society here, particularly on Long Island, but throughout New York, we take clean water for granted. We take for the fact that we have water, we have a good quantity of water, we have a good quality of water for granted. But there are companies, private companies that are global companies, which is the company that our next speaker is representing, Mike Martinez from, well, they have Martino from, they say United Water, but they've actually now, their name is Suez. And it's an international company that specializes in water treatment and clean water management. And myself and my co-workers at CC, we've met with a number of their scientists, their engineers, their staff people, and it really is impressive about how, and to me, this is what we're going to be moving more towards in the United States. How do we treat water as a finite resource, which it actually is becoming, and how do we manage it better and safer in the future than we have in the past? And that's one of the roles that Suez has taken on in Nassau County. So, Michael.
What she said. Any questions? I'll move quickly here, because really the meat of what I was going to speak about really is where Adrian went. So for all who don't know, and I'll really tie it up quickly, Suez, formerly United Water, entered into a 20-year public-private partnership with Nassau County. We began on January 2nd, 2015. That contract is to run the 3 sewage treatment plants, or actually right now 2, Bay Park and Cedar Creek, both major treatment plants at around 50 million gallons per day treated. Then we have one in Glen Cove, but Glen Cove is operated by another private company now for quite some time. When their contract expires, and we would take that over. Plus the entire collection system, thousands of miles underground, all the pipes, everything that comes in front of your street. Once you flush your toilet, use your water, take a shower, it goes into the collection system, and we maintain that, and plus pump and lift stations throughout the system that are used to move the wastewater through the system to get to the process part. We're paid $57 million a year to do that. We do not make $57 million a year. That would be terrific, but we don't. It's a very expensive business. And our promise to the county is a $10 million return in savings, which we've achieved. For year 1, actually, we exceeded at around $12 million. This year, we'll probably come in close to around $11 million. That's real taxpayer savings. That's through labor. We went in, we worked with the labor union. In fact, a good number of our workforce, a good amount of our workforce are still county employees, technically. We actually pay the county the freight on that. So their checks still come from the county, but we're paying their benefits and everything like that. So they really never left. It was, we work with unions all around the world, all around the country. We are very pro-union, and it is a very important thing. Why? Because politically, this was a very heavy lift. This is not an easy thing to do. Why public-private partnership? Why do you want a private company in? Well, it's always seen as a big bad wolf, especially the community activists and environmental activists, and it deserves a skeptical eye. But here's where the benefit is. We want to make money. We don't make a secret out of that. I just told you we get paid $57 million a year. We don't make anything near that. How do we make more money? Well, we just need to be better at what we do. Efficiencies. So right now, I could give you the real examples is a full year of really audit of what the system was doing for the past 50 years in Bay Park, oversimplifying it in Cedar Creek, and where we're at now. The reason we're here is because the infrastructure was in poor shape. And I don't want to...
And that's a generous statement.
I don't want to, I'm not anti, in fact, I actually worked for the county in a similar role as a community relations person with the Department of Public Works. And the reason I wound up at this company is because such a major amount of my time was spent with the sewage treatment plants and the community issues. The efficiencies that we've now are beginning to implement is, for example, just an incredible amount of wasted natural gas. Water that I wouldn't even begin to tell you, you might just pass out. What we've discovered, valves open up for years, broken hundreds and hundreds of thousands of gallons of water per day, just going away. And the taxpayers were paying those water bills. They were paying that for years. Peter referenced Bay Park and Sandy, and I would actually concur. Sandy, while brutal, was the single most exciting thing that ever happened in my career as well. It was fascinating, and then every aspect of it whether boots on the ground and knocking on a door and saying, are you okay? And then right to sitting in a room and seeing how government is going to respond, and really how to game the system there. Not in a crooked way, but to say, wait a minute, you can make that argument, and he's right. It was there, it was there. One thing that Sandy did, at least for Nassau County, and really shone the light was, you no longer have to wonder what the worst case scenario is, because Bay Park plant was shut down for 42 hours. The result of that, there were people who had geysers of raw sewage this high, and I saw them pumping out of their lawns, out of their toilets. It was blowing through streets because the collection system got so overburdened, because the name of the game in process treatment is move, to keep that water moving. So we don't have to wonder anymore what the worst case scenario is. Sandy provided a lot of opportunity. And that opportunity for Suez or United Water at that time was, the county had already been talking to us and they knew it's time to get out of this business. They've been slapped with a number of violations. They had fines, a consent order. Bay Park is in East Rockaway, which is western Nassau. Cedar Creek is in, did I say East Rockaway, right? Cedar Creek is in Wantagh, a little further east. The Western Bays area, where Bay Park discharges into the channel, which is really the bay, is an impaired body of water by the EPA, the DEC. It's been closed to shell fishing for many years, and the number one culprit is the outfall pipe. It's dumping nitrogen in, it's killing it, so we know the problems of nitrogen, and I won't go there. But why the public part? Why do you want a private company in? Why do you want to? Because we have a vested interest in being better at our job, because we want to make more money. And it sounds like vampirish, but it's not, in that we need to protect, but we have the amount of accountability on this contract it far exceeds the amount of accountability that the county has to itself. Again, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of gallons of water just being wasted every day. And that, people were paying for that. Okay, they never raised the rates. The money goes down, nothing gets it. Look, if you don't fix your car after 10 years, the car's gonna break. It's just what you just put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, and that's what it was. But we come in and we use the global expertise. And this is what you get with a private company. We do this type of work all around the world. We provide critical drinking water solutions to countries that, when Haiti had that bad earthquake, we had people on the ground there lending our experts to rebuild water infrastructure there so people could drink. Now, we're not talking about, this is really important stuff. This is this is what you need to live, right? You need air and water, and air is debatably where you are is great, and water is disappearing, like disappearing. It's not going away. I mean, it's going away. We actually even do projects. We have one in California where we repurpose Los Angeles wastewater into 4 different types of water, not drinking yet, but that is being done around the world and tested. But we use different types for irrigation and so on. We are looking at other technologies now, and we will implement them. That will bring down the waste, bring down the amount of trucks that have to leave the plant with product to improve the effluent quality. And we bring a tremendous amount of knowledge and expertise to the table. That's what you get. So Adrian said it before, this is becoming a much more popular way of dealing with things with municipalities that are really, quite frankly, unable to answer the problems of their infrastructure. We have pipes that on the North Shore that are like 100 years old, that don't even exist. The county tried to slip one by us and said, you need to clean 1,000 miles of pipe every year. They never even came close to that. And they thought, well, we're doing it. Actually, we're succeeding. But what we're finding in a lot of cases is the pipe doesn't even exist. It doesn't even exist. We get a backup call and we go out and we dig it up and there's not a pipe. The pipe, it looks like a parenthesis just sitting there like this. There's no top and there's no bottom. It's never been fixed. I mean, when I'm here now and we're getting calls from places, and I was with the county for a number of years, the people that were calling a number of years ago are now calling us. The county never fixed them either. And why? Because of money. So, that's my spiel on the public-private partnership and what we bring to the challenges to the municipalities, all around the world, especially right here on Long Island.
And one sentence, and that is that, it's important to know here, not only are they saving money, but we can attest to the fact that there's less pollution. So they're saving money and there's less pollution.
I forgot the most important
Yeah,
part, right? We're doing a really good job, actually.
As an environmental-
And Adrian makes sure every single day that we are.
Part of the agreement that we made the county do with them, which I'll be very blunt about, is that they had an advisory committee that we have to meet 4 times a year. We look at all their discharge numbers, we look at the rebuild that's occurring at the Bay Park plant, we look at the emissions, we look at the water, and we look at all the data with them. So it's not this tiny little bubble of government looking at government, but there's a stakeholder of crazy activists like us that are looking at these numbers also. And if there's any kind of a small blip, Mike called me yesterday at 8 o'clock in the morning to talk about a runoff of mud. But that's much better accountability that has led to a stellar year. 2 years ago, I was getting calls every day at 3 or 4 o'clock about the sludge coming out of Bay Park, going into the bay, people waiting because they knew it happened at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon with their cameras. They would take pictures of the semi-treated sludge, that's sewage, going into the bay, and then, people would be water skiing through it, people are on the piers fishing, the locals are taking pictures and film, I'm taking their pictures and film, sending it to the press to put pressure on Nassau. That's crazy land, all right? So we've moved out of crazy land into a situation where it's being managed, money's being saved, pollution's being saved, public health is being protected. We're very happy. Okay, so that's Nassau County. What is Long Island doing as a whole, you may want to ask yourself. Well, here to tell us about one of the most important projects on protecting water, both groundwater and surface water. And this is a collaborative plan called the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan. And David Berg is here from the Long Island Regional Planning Council, who's been one of the main instruments in helping to craft the plan, but also to help shepherd it along with lots of collaboration and input from stakeholders and the public as well. David?
I feel very little behind this table here, particularly sitting next to Mike.
Welcome to my
And I got my cheat sheet, so I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to talk to you about the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan, or LINAP. It's a great acronym. We don't have a logo yet, so you can let your imaginations go wild and submit something to us at the end of the presentation. So about LINAP, it's basically a very broad plan encompassing both counties to address nitrogen loads. And then ultimately, of course, it is an action plan to develop strategies to reduce those loads. And one of the first things that has to happen when you're thinking about nitrogen loads is to understand what they are, where they come from. The first project that's already underway in Suffolk County and will soon be in Nassau County is a delineation of the watersheds throughout the island, North Shore and South Shore. And then a model is being developed by a consultant at this time to Suffolk County to estimate the loads from wastewater, from fertilizer, and stormwater, and some other things like domesticated animals and wild animals. Once this is done, we have an estimate of how much nitrogen is going into each of these sub-watersheds from each of these sources, and I forgot to mention atmospheric nitrogen, probably because there's very little we can do about that, except complain to our neighbors to the west. Then we need to figure out what are the endpoints. Okay, now we know how much is going in there, but we're not going to get that number to zero, and we probably don't need to. But what is the number? What kind of nitrogen load to these watersheds constitutes a healthy discharge, if I may use that word? In other words, how much nitrogen can go into the surface waters in the bays and estuaries of Long Island and still have a healthy ecosystem? And those are the ecological endpoints. How much nitrogen can eelgrass tolerate and other species. So those are the endpoints. That's also scheduled for next year. Once we have the delineations and the load estimated, we're going to go to those endpoints and then ultimately, of course, to an action plan on how to address the loads. How do we reduce those loads? We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So LINAP is, as Adrian mentioned, a partnership between the New York State DEC and the Long Island Regional Planning Council. New York State awarded LINAP $5 million for this, what will be a 4 or even 5-year project. That money is divided between the DEC and the Planning Council, and ultimately it will be used to hire expert consultants to address some of the issues that are not currently being addressed by both counties or that will arise as a result of the work that the counties are doing. We're setting up advisory work groups. We already have a couple established. One is the one that Suffolk County put together in the past year to look at data analysis and to work with the modeling consultants. That group will continue into the long-term lineup. And then we have a group on fertilizer that's going to meet in the next 2 weeks to look at what's being done currently to manage fertilizer in the 3 major user groups, that being, of course, agriculture, the landscape industry, and golf courses. And of course, homeowners fall under the landscape industry. So what's being done currently, and there are quite a few things that are already underway. I think we'll hear more from Brian. So that group is going to get together and then look forward to are there other things that could be done to reduce fertilizer loads. And then finally, a technical and engineering work group that will include a broad spectrum of organizations, including environmental groups. So a number of, there are many entities involved in the Nitrogen Action Plan, many of which have been undergoing projects for the past year. Of course, the 2 counties, the DEC, the Planning Council, also the U.S. EPA. They're working primarily in the Long Island Sound, but also have experts in nitrogen reduction strategies. We've got the U.S. Geological Survey. They're doing a island-wide groundwater model to understand how groundwater moves and the nitrogen loads it carries, how long it takes. Stony Brook University has a couple of entities. There's the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences, of course, that we all know. They're doing work on, of course, toxic algal plumes, but also a lot of the modeling that's being done for surface waters by them. The Center for Clean Water Technology is another entity at Stony Brook University, funded by the state. They have several $1 million, both for to investigate new wastewater technologies, but also on the drinking water side, contaminants of emerging concern. At Stony Brook, you have the 3 estuary groups, Long Island Sound, the Peconic Estuary, and the South Shore Estuary. Those groups have been active for many years. They have, each of them, comprehensive plans they will be updating, and they'll be working closely with the lineup. And then agriculture and markets, New York State. Has been active for many years in farm management programs, use of fertilizers and pesticides. We'll be engaging with them as well. And just to circle back to the fertilizer group for a moment, I just wanted to mention the different organizations that are part of that group. There are agricultural associations, landscape and grounds, I mentioned, golf course, superintendents groups, fertilizer manufacturers, also a number of industry advisory groups from Long Island, from the state, even national organizations, of course, government agencies that are involved in agriculture and regulating water sources. And then environmental advocacy organizations, primarily from the East End, because that's probably where most of the focus is. And then some academics from Long Island who've been involved with fertilizer issues. Peter pretty much covered a lot of what Suffolk County is doing, but Suffolk County has the sub-watershed plan that they've been engaged in for about a year now at least, and going back before that for their comprehensive plan. There are 12 tasks They're already well into task number 5. Next year is going to be an important year because some of these documents are going to be completed, the nitrogen load model. They're also going to prioritize the watershed. So where are the problems most severe across the island and most severe with regard to wastewater, most severe with regard to fertilizer? We suspect that in Nassau County, which is 85% sewer, we're going to be looking a little bit more at stormwater as an issue, particularly on the South Shore. And then moving forward, the county and Nassau County will be doing the same thing, looking at solutions. So, you know, what percent of the load from each of these sources needs to be reduced, and how is that going to happen? Nassau County, we heard about Nassau County. We actually have a meeting with the county very soon to talk about their plans for nitrogen reduction. There are a lot of things happening in Nassau County, but of course Nassau County does still have some unsewered areas, primarily on the North Shore. We need to understand how much of an issue that is. Is the nitrogen load really having an impact on those watersheds? The answer is, of course, it's having an impact, but how severe is that and what needs to be done? I'll just talk briefly about some funding sources, because when we get to the end point here, we're going to say, well, as we heard, it's going to cost a lot of money. But there are a number of funding sources that have been in place for a number of years. Of course, the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation has their revolving loan fund, which has traditionally been used for funding major infrastructure projects. It's a loan fund in New York State. But they also, post-Sandy, have a storm mitigation loan program. They've had, for many years, their wastewater engineering planning grants to get things going. Water infrastructure grants, the New York State Department of State also has programs. So you say, well, how is the Department of State involved? Well, they have their whole coastal program, and we're dealing with the coast and coastal issues. They have the local waterfront revitalization program. The South Shore Estuary Reserve has significant funding from the state. And then, of course, post-Sandy, we're all aware of the Community Development Block Grant Program, which has been instrumental in resilience and will be with a lot of these issues. Empire State Development, DEC, a number of funding sources available, not in the billion level. And so if anyone has any questions, they should absolutely contact the DEC, but they could also contact me at dberg@lirpc.org, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. All right, well, 2 more to go, and then we can actually have them ask right now.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go.
All right, next speaker is Frank Russo. He's with H2M Architects and Engineers. They are a very well-known and respected consulting company that works with a number of municipalities, but also with a number of businesses on issues of water management and also water cleanup as well.
Yes. So I've been doing this for 40 years.
Is it all?
Yes, 40 years. And there was a funding source back in the early 70s where the government would grant municipalities to go forward. Not in the 40 years since have I seen more interest in sewers, which is good and bad, right? Because for 40 years we pretty much neglected, and we're paying the price for it. So I'm here to tell you that there is hope, there is a plan, this holistic approach of not only managing our resources from air and fertilizer and obviously sewage, but also from what David has said, there's also this holistic approach about tying in state, county, town, village, federal, and the advocacy groups, all getting involved finally to try to figure this problem out. In September of this year, Little Old Town Riverhead, 1.5 MGD facility, put the first wastewater reuse project online on Long Island. Huge. Diverting over 350,000 gallons a day irrigation of the Indian Island golf course. What that meant was, instead of that wastewater going to the estuary, it's now being reused, containing less than 2 milligrams per liter of total nitrogen, which is phenomenal. It's the limit of technology. And whatever nitrogen is there is being reused for fertilizer. So there is hope. And that's a very successful project made possible through the funding of Suffolk County. So $8 million worth out of the $24 million project. The other point I just want to make is this need for this constant revenue source. The grants and the available funding, it means nothing if you don't have that constant source of revenue. And we have to make a decision. We have to make a decision if we want to protect that resource or if we want it to continue to degrade.
Great, thank you. You're sounding like me there at the end, you're scared. And last but absolutely not least, we have Brian Harrington from a company you may have heard called Scott's Miracle-Gro. Now, why would we want to hear from Scott's Miracle-Gro on the issue of water protection? Well, that's exactly what Brian is here to tell us.
Thank you, Adrian. And why do you want to hear from me? Because of passionate people like Adrian who are out there advocating for water quality, just like yourself. So I work for the Scott's Miracle-Gro Company. We are the largest marketer of consumer lawn and garden products in the world. So that's everything from soils and mulches that you might use around your properties to lawn and plant foods. A lot of people get confused among the names. Some of the product range you'll see are Scott's branded products, and then the garden products are Miracle-Gro products. And then we also do pest control products you might use around your home, indoor and outdoor, or you might use in your garden. So we're no strangers to water quality or even water quantity concerns, because I think that is a major topic, really in other parts of the country, but it is a growing topic here. Not only because we've had drought in recent years, but it's an infrastructure issue. And improving our infrastructure here to serve the growing population is going to cost millions of dollars. So providing that water in a consistent way is important too, and it costs taxpayers money. So we are unveiling a new initiative called the Water Positive Landscape Initiative to address those two issues, which we're no strangers to. About a decade ago, we entered into an agreement with the Chesapeake Bay program to reduce phosphorus in our lawn fertilizer products by 50%. That led to an announcement about 3 or 4 years later that we were completely removing phosphorus from our regular maintenance lawn fertilizer products completely. So that was when a lot of concerns were coming up around phosphorus and fresh waterways. Nitrogen works a little differently, so you can't completely remove it from products, but we've been taking steps along the way, which I'll talk about. So this Water Positive initiative we rolled out earlier in the year. The tone for it was really set by our CEO, Jim Hagedorn. The Hagedorn family has roots here on Long Island. That's actually where the Miracle-Gro Company was founded. So our goal here is to help do-it-yourself gardeners, whether they're taking care of their lawn or their garden, be able to use our products in a sustainable way and use products that are more sustainable. So I know this is kind of small, so I'll read it. Gardens can't grow without water, and as the world's largest lawn and garden products company, it is our responsibility to help our consumers enjoy the landscapes that they want while also protecting the environment. People are not going to use our products if they think they're polluting the environment. So that is our goal here, is to reinforce that and make sure that our products aren't part of the problem. So I have a stool as well, Peter. Maybe I'll redo this slide actually to appear that way. But the Water Positive Landscapes Initiative is 3 parts. The first part is National Partner Network. Like I said, the issues that you're seeing here are not unique to Long Island. The factors that are contributing to them are, and they have to be dealt with on a local and regional level to address those factors. But for us, we're dealing with water quantity concerns out west in California. We've dealt with them in Texas as well. They dealt with major drought issues as well. When it comes to water quality issues, we're seeing this in the Gulf of Mexico. I mentioned Chesapeake Bay, Barnegat Bay, Great Bay, Buzzards Bay. We're even starting to see some of the conversation pop up around water quality concerns around San Francisco Bay. So these types of conversations are not unique. So what we have decided to do is partner with groups from around the country, NGOs, from these different areas, and the goal of that piece of it is to partner with them on education, research, and policy solutions to these water quality and water conservation issues. I'll give you a little more information about that in a little bit. The second part of it is is water innovation. So looking internally, what can we do with our products? Can we change formulations? Can we not only change formulations, but maybe use different technologies to in the delivery of our fertilizers? Or can we use technologies in our soils to retain water and help the plants use water more efficiently and maybe less water? Things like that. So we're looking internally at our products. The real goal there is to help you grow your tomatoes or your lawn in a way that is going to protect water quality and use water more efficiently. That's really the goal of that, looking at our current product portfolio. And then the third part is our research lab. So in addition to looking at the products from the standpoint of what do we have now, is looking externally at what are the gaps in this area. You know, this is a huge concern across the country. We are the leader in this space. How do we innovate our products beyond the current portfolio to help address those issues for gardeners and landscapers? The initiative was just rolled out earlier this year. Like I said, we've been actually working on water quality and conservation issues for a little longer, but we've already started initiating programs throughout the country and even here locally. Earlier this year, we helped sponsor and organize the Latitude 41 conference that was held up in Stony Brook. Had about 150 attendees from both sides of Long Island Sound, municipal leaders, government officials. We had NGOs, we had private funding foundations there to talk about different solutions to the water quality issues facing Long Island Sound and different ways that we could get them off the ground and different solutions we might start to think about. We did that with Restore America's Estuaries and a couple other groups. Consumer education, we've been rolling out some different programs on that with the National Association of Conservation Districts. So conservation districts, soil and water conservation districts across the country have access to a backyard conservation program that they can go out and educate homeowners, property owners on what they can do around their own yards to reduce any type of environmental impacts to the environment, how to use products appropriately, how to keep maintenance practices like recycling your leaves and recycling your clippings, things like that, broad spectrum of things people can introduce into their everyday life. In addition, we've been investing in some marketing that, you know, Adrian actually helped us out on a little tagline a couple of years ago, keep your lawn green and your water clean. So we've been doing digital marketing. If you're out on Pandora or things like that, you might have seen it, or cruising for products online. We have ads and different things out there trying to reach consumers in different ways. Fertilizer nitrogen reduction, and again, I'll give credit to Adrian for this. A couple of years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, she came to me and said, hey, fertilizer, non-resident, non-farm fertilizer use is skyrocketing. What the heck is going on here? Like, this is a big concern. You know, we went back, we started looking through our numbers. What does this mean? What's going on here? So we found some things there from internally that we thought were really great stories that we weren't talking about, we weren't educating people on. We've been reformulating our products, increasing the amount of slow-release nitrogen in them. So between that and different things that were happening in the marketplace, over that 4-year period, that 5-year period that the tonnage numbers were being looked at, we actually sold 50% less nitrogen in Suffolk County. It was really a Suffolk County focused thing. So, you know, there was improvement going on that we didn't even know about and we weren't looking at. But if nobody had come to us with those numbers, we never would have even realized it. So it's a great story we can talk about, and we've seen those numbers carry out through the following years on tonnage. And so, you know, we're seeing actual results in the things that we're doing, and we want to continue those out. And then earlier this year, the reauthorization of the Community Preservation Fund out on the East End. We collaborated with New York League Conservation Voters to help get the word out to voters about that Community Preservation Fund and why it needed to be reauthorized. Real quickly, I got 2 more slides. This is the innovation portion, things that we're looking at, tying back into sewer and graywater. It's great to hear about what they did at Indian Island on the golf course. We're trying to see how can we take things like that, reuse of graywater, and do that for consumers. Because that's only been done in a couple places, and it's really in the beginning stages of figuring out how to do it. It's really done on a more industrial level. But programs are really new, and how do you consumerize that? How can you help consumers to do that? So we're looking at that. Water conservation point, We have rolled out a new technology called Blossom. Actually, water sensor technology for irrigation has been around for a while, but this is an automated rain sensor, water sensor technology. It measures the moisture in your soil. The system's connected like Nest for your heating system in your home to your irrigation system, and you can control it on your mobile device and turn off your sprinkler system if the soil moisture is correct, or change your irrigation schedule. In places in California, it has been rolled out all over the place yet. You can get it online here. But out in California, communities that we've done adoption of this, and we're able to actually, because it's digital, see what's happening with the water use. We've seen 20% reduction in water use in these neighborhoods that have started to adopt this. Some good results there. We're looking for everything from helping people with native landscapes, rolling out different types of covers for your property, from pollinator gardens, alternative ground covers like clover and things like that. So we're looking at the range of possibilities to help consumers reduce impacts to water quality and also improve water conservation. Here are some of the current product portfolio that you may not even realize has some of these benefits in it. Our soils has a moisture technology in it to help the soil retain water and help plants retain some of that water and make it more available to the plants. Our grass seed has a water smart technology around it that helps that grass seed bring in nutrients and retain water in it when you apply it. So that's why when you see our grass seed, it usually has a coating over it. If you just buy a standard grass seed, it's just a seed. It's going to help the grass plant in that infant stages really develop. And then out west, we also rolled out a product. It's a surfactant that you apply to plants to help use water more efficiently, and again, hopefully help consumers reduce water use in those areas, especially help the plant when there is those dry periods, and you'll probably see that in the coming years move further east. So you can find more on our website, scottsmiracle-gro.com/water positive. We have a blog going on there. We're pulling in experts from our partner networks and just experts in the landscaping field. Put information up there to consumers about what they can do in their yards, keep people up to date on the technologies we're rolling out and things like that. Also follow us on Twitter, follow me on Twitter, and we'll be putting updates and everything out about that and interact with us. So that's what I got. Thank you very much.
I want to add one other thing real quick for Brian, and that is that, a lot of times, and I see this in the environmental groups, I've been doing this work not as long as Frank, but quite a number of decades. And environmental groups make the corporations out to be the bad guys, and sometimes they are. I mean, we're not going to do any co-hosting with Exxon or BP anytime soon, but sometimes they're not. So, for instance, Scott's voluntarily, this may not have to do with water, but they voluntarily are phasing out a classification of pesticides called neonicotinoids, or in this case in particular imidacloprid, which has been directly linked to the bee die-off that we've seen around the globe. And so Scott's took it upon themselves to say, we're going to phase that chemical out. Not because the government told us to, because the government didn't, because they move at pre-global warming glacial speed, but because we believe it's the right thing to do. So they're now phasing out one of the most critical pesticides that has been linked to the massive bee die-off globally. So we're very happy about that too. So I just wanted to say that, look, you have to work with corporations to bring issues to them and then work with them to make changes. Change has to happen on many levels. Don't just rely on government for change, because that's not going to happen.